Hi there, welcome. My name is Laura. Join me as we discuss leading edge improvements in tack design to enhance your horse's performance. Today we'll be talking with designer and developer of these innovative products, Linda Hauck, and get insight from two horse show judges, not one, but two, and why it's so important. So, oh my gosh. Hi, and welcome. My name is Laura. Welcome to Equestrian Skill Builders live broadcast, where we discuss equestrian-related topics and share ideas and exercises to help you or your riders. If you'd like to improve your riding and training, win more ribbons at your next horse show, or generally like other horsey-related stuff, then stay tuned because my guest today, Linda Hauck of Tapestry Equine Products, and co-host Patricia Jellerson, USEF Large R Judge. Patricia and I will share some excellent information to help you improve your performance and answers questions. Okay, regular viewers of the program will recognize Patricia as a regular here in the program. Hi, Patricia. Where are you coming in from?
Hello. Coming from Edmond, Oklahoma.
Ooh.
The wilds of Oklahoma. But we make it work here. I travel around and do my judging, and I have a few good clients that I work with, so all is well.
And our special guest today, Linda Hauck. Hi, Linda.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
A little bit about Linda. Linda has been passionate about eventing and thoroughbreds her entire life and competed at advanced level in eventing. She has had her thoroughbred trainer's racing license. Do you still have that?
No.
So you let that go? And was a level 3 technical delegate for eventing. Mm-hmm. Bottom line, many thousands of hours watching and riding horses. Where are you coming in from today?
Guelph, Ontario.
Yay.
Oh.
What's the weather like in Guelph today?
You know what? I was just out in the conservation walking my dog, and it was about a -5 morning, but a beautiful sunrise.
Excellent. Okay, so today we've got 4 main topics. Today we're going to talk about Linda's first product and how it came about and what she had to do to make this happen. And then we're going to talk about her girth, the Tapestry equine girth, and then marketing and about how she went about doing all this stuff. And we're going to jam pack it into an hour. If you have any questions, love to hear from you. If you have any questions, we will try to answer them. You ready to go?
Yep. Where did you find it?
That's us. That's what I feel like sometimes. Okay, Linda. So what was your first product? So tell us a little bit about your first product.
Well, the first product that I launched back in 2009 at a U.S. trade show I've called it the Spursuader Spur. And we'll talk about naming products and all that down the road and later in the segment and how I came up with that name, or actually how a friend of mine came up with that name. But nonetheless, again, just a lifetime of watching horses. I'd be sitting there in a golf cart at a horse show as an official, and you can just sit there and watch what people do, either, with their hands, with their spurs, whatever. And you'd see a horse, with the rider, with a Prince of Wales or a hammerhead, and you'd see the ears go back and the tail swish and the teeth grinding. And I would just think that, you know what, that's too much of a reaction. Again, I have a lifetime of thoroughbreds off the racetrack, and most of those guys are sensitive and they want to go forward. And I thought there's got to be a kinder way. I need to ask you instead of telling you. And so I got thinking, okay, well, your typical spur, which, has such a blunt point, and it really is a poke and a jab. I thought it needed to be a bigger contact surface with no sharp edges. So I had asked an old neighbor of mine who had his own tool and die. I said, can you do me a favor? Put a loonie on the end of a traditional pair of spurs, and I've got to try them. I've got to see if they're going to actually get the response, and I thought they would. So he did that, and the first horse I ever put them on was a big 16-3 hand thoroughbred off the track, and he was opinionated. It was a Sienna cat, and I thought I would never put a traditional pair of spurs on him. He was just that kind of personality. And I thought, you know what? When I got on him, I said, Royal, this is a big day. You don't know how big a day this is. And so I started warming him up. And when I started to do the lateral work and started to use this persuader, got exactly what I wanted, and his ears never moved. And I thought, aha, that's
so what is it? What's so different about the design that helped this horse not pin his ears? Or
well, this persuader is a disc surface. So again, it literally is the size of a Canadian loonie. There's no sharp edges. So when you close your leg, and I have a video on my website that shows you that, no, you don't need to turn your toes out. You don't need to change your leg. But when you close your leg, you'll make a 3/4 contact with that disc surface and the inside edge. So think of your boot as being a flat piece of contact surface. Well, then the persuader just focuses it. It concentrates it. Now I'm going to ask instead of tell, a poke and a jab versus, can I ask you to move over? Can I ask you to move over?
Do they come in different sizes, or is there just one size?
That's a great question, Patricia. It's a one size fits all. They're made from stainless steel, so they'll last you forever.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So Patricia, from a judge's perspective, what do you see from the judge's box that may or may not think that it's a good idea?
Well, I definitely see a lot of horses pinning their ears and swishing their tails, and that is something that I take into consideration. You know, you don't want a nice performance ruined by an unpleasant attitude, and that can easily happen. So it definitely makes it into my marks when that's the case.
And it's not just thoroughbreds either, is it?
Oh, no, across the board for sure.
Usually those chestnut mares, they don't like too much those.
No, in
those
fact,
Spurs.
that's the first thing I thought when I saw these. I have to get some and try them on our chestnut mare.
Yeah, well, wait till you see the girth. You're going to want to try that too, Patricia. Okay, so here's this persuader spur. Now, just for fun,
But I mean, the disc itself just comes in one size.
Yeah, it's a one size. It's fixed. It doesn't rotate at all, so it's very different from what a rowel would do, which would rotate. It's just a fixed disc on the end.
a bigger surface area, so compare that spur to, and just for fun, I got this. Now, when people say they're going to get their spurs, for non-horse people, I think this is what most non-horse people think of when they think, okay, I'm going to go get my spurs. They think of this fancy thing,
Wow.
which, right? And then I found this one, and Patricia, I thought of you because of the books you're writing. This is a 17th century iron prick spurs. I guess they're pricks.
Wow.
And I said to Linda, I said, it looks like something you'd roast a hot dog over a fire with. Right?
Yeah.
Right.
You don't get a sense of how long this is. Oh, does it say how long it is, that length?
Oh, I can tell because it's as long as the stem of the spur.
As the shank, it's yeah.
So which would you rather have in your stomach or your rib
Either
cage?
one of those.
Yeah.
Or
There's lots of pictures on my website and on my Instagram page, which is at Tapestry Equine Products, that actually show the spurs on riders' boots. And riders will always say to me, once you put them on, you don't even know you have them on. You totally forget about them. And one of my biggest fans for this persuader is Hall of Fame rider and coach Bernie Traurig. Loves them for those sensitive horses.
Mm. I have a question though. I can understand how this would work wonderful for a lot of different disciplines, except in dressage where they don't really have their leg against the horse. Is it going to come in contact? I think that's where you see those long, blunt spurs primarily, not for our hunter riders or even our jumper riders, but in those dressage riders. Do you know what I'm saying?
I think I do, Patricia. I guess, the Goey horses, and again, I've had a lifetime of the Goeys, the forward horses. I never take a leg off. It doesn't mean it's active, but it's a passive leg.
Mm-hmm.
And a spur really only comes in contact when you activate that part of your leg to make contact with it. So the dressage riders, it certainly is a tool that they can use. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Again, a spur is there when you need it. You don't, like everything in horses, as needed. Your spur as needed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
So I've got. Oh, sorry, Linda. I am going to share the little video. I think it's the 5-second video of Persuader while you're talking there. Okay, share. This, can you see
Yep.
that? Okay, perfect. There it is. And the person gets their leg. You see, it's nice little blunt.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's a totally, having ridden with both. It's such a nice feel to say, use the spur like that. Horse moves over. I didn't get the tail swish. I didn't get the ears pinned.
Yeah.
Peter Gray, Olympian for Canada, has used this spur at Grand Prix Dressage. Rob Stevenson, who was also a Canadian Olympian, uses this spur.
That's great. That's great.
They've been on the market for 10 years, believe it or not, Patricia. They went worldwide within 6 months of launching.
I have never, excuse me, never heard of it.
Well,
Never.
now you know where to go.
I do. And I'm trying to figure out how we can get it more well known, because I worry a little bit if the judging is going to matter in the hunters, because judges are so conservative about different tack. I mean, even a long regular spur in the hunters is.
Would you notice the spur, Patricia?
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Would you notice
especially if the horse is acting a little snarky? I check out the spurs.
Exactly.
You know, so one way of looking at that as from a judging point of view is, you know, you put the positive spin on it is, you know, that's awesome that they've recognized that their horse has been reacting in a negative way to a traditional spur, so they've switched to a kinder one.
Excellent. Now, did you see this comment here from Lisa? Thank you so much, Lisa, for the comment. Love that. Love the spurs. So if you want to do you have a set of spurs, Lisa? Let us know in the comments if you do have a set. If you do want a set, you can go to the put the link in the comments, and you get a 10% discount when you order with that code. The code is LKM. That's for me, Laura Kelland-May 10. You get 10% discount. So excellent. So like you say, you've been a 10-year overnight success.
Yes. Yeah, it takes 10 years to be an overnight sensation when you're in the business world, is what I was told by a good friend of mine.
Yeah. So from your website, you have a kinder, more humane spur created with sensitive horses in mind, ideal for amateur riders who do not want to use a sharper spur. And then you say, the reason I developed the spur was in large part my experience riding sensitive horses, particularly thoroughbreds, how they overreacted to a traditional spur, how some would get tense right away. And that got me thinking that there must be another way to get our point across to the horse without offending or creating tension. Awesome. And you did it.
Well, thank you. Do we have time for a really quick story?
Of course.
So again, if you follow me on my Instagram, a big part of my Instagram is to educate riders, right? Just anatomical, physiological aspects of the horse and how the products that we use affect them. So I was officiating one day at a horse show, an event, and I was watching a lovely thoroughbred type being warmed up by a rider who had a spur very similar to this on their horse. The horse was walking, and he asked the horse to canter. So how do you think he asked the horse to canter?
Jab, jab.
You got it. And what do you think the horse did?
Kicked out.
Right. Now, what do you think the rider did?
Spurred him harder.
Exactly. And I watched him, goes into the dressage ring. Do you think that horse was relaxed?
No. Right.
That horse swished his tail and grinded his teeth for the entire test. I don't know if that rider ever put together 2 and 2 for what he did, caused all that tension. And unfortunately, sometimes ego gets in the way.
Yeah.
Lovely thoroughbred type. Didn't need to be poked and jabbed or told what to do. He needed to be asked. And I can guarantee you the outcome would have been night and day.
So, but a rider like that, for example, would they need the spur? Like, should they even be wearing spurs? That's my question.
It's a tough question. And again,
Yeah.
what's fantastic about my journey, and we're going to talk about it a bit later, is I get to travel the world doing trade shows. And I get to chat with lots of people, and the horse industry, we all have 1,000 ways of wanting to do the same thing sometimes. Yeah. And I'll tell people, this isn't necessarily the tool for that horse that doesn't want to go forward. Then you need to do something else to get your horse motivated. But you can't. I've had people come into the booth and go, "Oh, there's not a pair of spurs sharp enough," and I just have to look at them and go, "Hold on a second, really? Yeah. Maybe you need a different horse or a different coach or what? I don't know." But the horse has every right to let us know what he thinks of the equipment that we're using, and maybe it's time that, I need to reevaluate what I'm using. If it's a super sensitive horse, yes, you could absolutely use these spurs. Move them over quietly, over on the trail. Again, everything that we do with them is as needed. So it's not like a spur is being used every single stride. You're only supposed to use this artificial aid as needed.
As needed. I know for my riders, once they get above an intermediate level or they get to an intermediate level, I always want them in a spur, a small spur. And because I just feel like you need to have it when you need it. Not that you're going to use it all the time, but at a certain level of proficiency, it's quite a useful tool, but it is terribly, terribly abused.
And you're absolutely right, Patricia. And you bring up a good point there. I want my riders to use a small spur. So one of my things that I do in my trade show booths is I always have a pair of regular spurs. And this doesn't matter if it's this one or a little Prince of Wales. Doesn't matter. I have that one as well in the booth. And I'll say to that rider, "Here, do me a favor, put this one in your rib cage." And they look at me and I say, "Well, you do it to your horse, so do it to yourself." And it can be that tiny little Prince of Wales, and they'll rub it up and down in their rib cage and their eyes go, "Oh." I said, "Exactly. Now you know what it feels like. Now I want you to put this persuader in your rib cage." And they rub it up and down. They go, "Oh, right. There's no sharp edge." I go, "Exactly."
Mm.
Excellent.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
Yeah. So let's move on. Do you have anything else, Patricia, you'd like to ask?
No.
Or Linda, anything about this persuader? Because I'd like to move on to the girth, if that's okay.
Yes.
I mean, we could do like a full session on the girth because you've got some really good information about the girth. And what's the story about the girth?
Okay. So I sometimes think the spur story, the spur journey set me up for the girth journey. So again, watching horses, we've all, experienced that girthy horse in our lifetime. The one that is bloating in cross ties, wants to bite us, wants to sit down. As soon as you tack them up, they're peg-legged, they're very short striding. They don't breathe under tack. They don't relax under tack. They're chipping into distances and things like that. So my last thoroughbred off the track, it was still with a traditional girth with the elastic at both ends. I would bring the tack to the stall and boom, he'd go to the back, head down, ears pinned. And I thought, okay, I'm going to change this. I have a manufacturer. I know how, to get the patents and all that kind of stuff. So what can I do to make you more comfortable? So I went back to, I thought back to the days when I was at the racetrack. So at the racetrack on race days, you use that elastic girth, and it's a 3-inch wide piece of elastic, but there's nothing central. So they have to do it up that tight because they don't want the saddle slipping back. So I thought, all right, needs something symmetrical, needs to be comfortable, and we can relate to it like a bra, right? It needs to let us move, needs to let us breathe. And I thought, okay, so at the sternum, which is your pectorals, I'm going to put neoprene. and I do a nice neoprene cushion. So now you've got some cushioning over that part of the horse, which is quite sensitive, elastic where they need it, and then the leather and the buckles up here. Took that design, my first prototype. I had a wonderful gentleman at a tack store who's now since retired, not too far from me, make me my first prototype. And even as I was telling him about it, we were measuring and doing all this, he looked at it and he said, Linda, I think you're onto something. So anyways, I got my prototype. I took it to the University of Guelph, showed it to one of their top equine researchers and said, Dr. Thomason, what do you think? And he looked at it and goes, why hasn't somebody thought of this already?
Exactly what I was. What I think it's brilliant. I just think it's brilliant. You know.
Do we have a picture of it? I'm dying to see
yeah,
what it looks
yeah.
like.
Okay, so let me just see. So this is the stop screen share, start screen share. I got a picture of it. It's coming up, but this is not your latest photo of it, and we've got some different.
Yes, this is an old picture, but I can walk you through it because it breaks it down. So the picture on the top left of it there is showing you the sternum pad. And that's the part, yes, that's the part that sits on top of the horse's pectorals.
Like right between their front legs, right?
Yeah, yep. Their sternum area. When a horse breathes and expands the rib cage, they do it from the sternum up, not down from the back. So then I put the elastic where the horse needs it, which is from the bottom up. So that would be the next picture over to the right. This is just a picture of one of my longers.
So this is the elastic, and that goes like behind the elbows.
Yes.
Where your leg is, I guess.
Yeah. And so the undersurface of that is, the girth is designed so it's a solid 3-inch piece of elastic from end to end. So the elastic there could never break down. It's one solid piece of elastic. And then I thought back to my steeplechase days when we used to use an overgirth. And I thought, oh, I like the idea of that. So that's why those elastic pieces are crossed. So they start near the buckle end. They're cut in the middle. Otherwise, they would bunch underneath the sternum pad. And then they carry on the other side. And that is the surface that doesn't make contact with the horse. But from a psychological point of view, you're going to want a backup, right? You don't, no rider wants to think, I think that being held on by one piece of elastic. And then I put leather where it doesn't matter, up by the buckles. So then, I have new orders coming over. And what I've done now is I've split where the buckles are so that it isn't a solid piece anymore, but they are going to be split, which is fine.
Like this?
Yeah. And then the sternum pad that's away from the horse has a D-ring so that if needed, you can attach a martingale breastplate and that kind of thing. And this girth is an absolute game changer.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
So I do have the patents on it. I have the dressage monoflat version. I have Western cinches. I have my long girth. And I'm launching, hopefully next month. I have a whole bunch of orders landing. I'm launching my patent pending belly guard girth.
Oh, wow. I was going to ask you about that, if you had a belly guard girth.
Well, you know what? I've been listening to the customers and they have been hounding me for a belly guard. Mm-hmm. So I finally, it was a year of prototypes and, I don't like this design or I don't like that design. And so I can show you it actually. I finally decided on this version. So unlike my other girths, and I'll show you this one here. This is a dressage girth. So you can see where the sternum pad here, the neoprene, it's nice and thick and it's on the outside, right? When we were playing with the belly guard design, I still wanted the cushioning over the pectorals because that's so important. And we couldn't, going back and forth with all the different designs and using them, we couldn't get a design that I was comfortable with the neoprene on the outside. It wasn't going to work. We tried many times. So what I've done is I've put 2 layers of neoprene in the sternum area. So there you can see it. So you actually have a pillow over the horse's pectorals. Hmm. And then you have the elastic, no different than my other Tapestry girths. So that's my belly guard, and it'll be here. It's been delayed because of COVID. All my orders have been delayed, but nonetheless, it will be available next month. And I do have some riders already using them. Actually, Laura will show you a picture of one of my fantastic brand ambassadors, Alex Mitchell. Her horse has been wearing it now, one of my prototypes, for over a year. I've got a great show jumper down in Wellington. So that's a picture of Alex Mitchell. So how Alex and I met, and this again can also be part of the marketing. Alex had approached me, messaged me on Instagram, I think it was, and said, "Hey, I've seen your spurs, and I have a really sensitive mare. And would you consider, she's got a great social media." And I said, "Okay." Well, I sent her a pair of spurs, and she was fantastic. Loved them, promoted them. My horse goes better because of them. And I said to her, "You know what? But I have this other product that really is a game changer. And would you be interested? I'll send you a girth." And she said, "Yeah." So this is her 1.20 m mare, silver, in a traditional girth. And one of the next pictures you're going to see is silver in my belly guard girth. And look at the difference in the form.
Yeah. Look
Wow.
at this.
Is night and day. And again, this is where it's so important to start educating riders about, do you realize that when a horse jumps, the sternum drops? Like when they do this, the sternum actually has to drop. And if you've got
When they do what, Linda?
Well,
What
they have to
do?
expand
You
to
can't
the
really
bottom
see
part.
you. They have to open up their pecs.
Yeah.
So you
They
see
have to
here.
stretch
Yeah.
when
So
they're jumping, right? And
Yeah.
so if you put a tight leather belt on them, well, how are they they're locked?
So this horse, you can see the way this down, like way it dropped down. Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Am I showing it?
They have to expand in that bottom area. And again, people, this is part of my journey. So I think people, for a lot of the part, riders, coaches, trainers, whatever, a girth holds a saddle on. Can you show the other picture and then there was another one that you had. There we go. So that was in the comfort girth. And then when I had a belly guard, so much more relaxed expression. You can see her starting to bring that shoulder up. And this was just after she started using this girth. And then you could see where it progressed to over time.
Yep. So you got this is after she's been using it for
6 months.
6 months. Wow. It's quite a change.
It is.
Isn't it?
And so again, what we try to get is educate, trainers and the coaches and the riders that your girth does so much more than holds the saddle on. There's a moving, breathing machine underneath you, an athlete underneath you.
Yeah.
Are you helping it or are you hindering it?
Right.
And then again, the horse will get the brunt of it. Well, why does a horse bloat when you tack it up? They're protecting their intercostals. They're telling you, I don't like what you're about to do, so this is what I'm going to do to protect myself. And Laura, you and I had this discussion. So we're of that vintage where, a riding instructor would say, well, give them a slap in the belly, get them to blow out. Well, okay, but they're talking, right? So there's that whole concept. Biting, going to bite you. That's their way of saying, I don't like what you're about to do. And honestly, you can go to my website. You can read so many endorsements, testimonials, and on Instagram, how this girth, you know what? My horse, he did it for 15 years. It was one of my stories. Would go to bite me with a traditional girth, stopped with yours. Better striding. I had a rider. The horse, you could set up a dead-on four-stride with an oxer out. Dead on. This horse would go down that line, and if he didn't hit the sweetest of his distances, he would chip. Put him in a comfort girth. Didn't matter if he got a little long. He could expand through that rib cage. Stop chipping. And we got to start relating. So what am I wearing on you? And what is your performance, or what is your attitude? And is one causing the other?
So I would like for you to explain how you decided on the design. You said you went to Guelph and you did some interesting things when you were at Guelph University.
Well, Jeff and I, for the girth, you're getting ahead of yourself there, Laura, because that's about the noseband.
No, I think you told me you went to and you dissected a horse for the girth,
okay.
didn't
Not
right?
for the girth.
Not for the girth. Okay.
No, for a different piece
product
of
coming up.
I have
Okay.
in my head that yes.
Okay.
But
so
yes,
what is it about the girth that it prevents pressure on certain parts of the horse that they're trying to protect?
No, that is the noseband, but that's okay. That's okay. So the girth, what I did with the girth is I went to the University of Guelph and showed one of the researchers my girth design. And I was in his lab for an hour and a half, and we just talked about anatomy, physiology, and it makes no sense that there's total leather girths because it doesn't help the horse breathe. It restrict, there have been studies that you can overgirth a horse to the point where you start affecting breathing. Right. And we all know those anxious horses that will go into the ring. I have a Brazilian show jumper who's competing down in Wellington, and he's got a slew of my girths. And he called me up, and I answered the phone. He goes, "Oh, is this Tapestry?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, thank God I found you. I have a friend down here in Wellington who swears by your girth. His mare was so anxious going into the ring. And I've got one exactly the same." He said, "You got to get this girth because it changed my mare." And he bought like 3 on the phone call, sent them down, and he hasn't looked back.
Awesome. So how much is it now? A couple of things I want that just kind of popped into my brain is, when as you said, when I think of girth, that's the thing that holds the saddle on. I don't really think of it so much as part of the equipment of the horse and rider. I mean, a lot of people really discuss the saddle and the saddle fit, and they do go to great lengths to make sure the saddle fits the horse and the saddle fits the rider. So how much is the girth versus the actual placement? Because there's other girths out there that have special design to, allow for the elbow movement and these things. So is it the girth, or is it the placement? Is it where we're putting it? Should we put it on the back 2 tabs? Should we put it on the front 2 tabs? Should we put it in the first and third tabs? All those things.
That is a fantastic question. And I'm so glad you brought that up, Laura. So a couple of things. With respect to...
Wait a minute.
Great question. I love it. Because again, this is something that we have to educate riders for, especially those that use a monoflap girth and a dressage girth and the Western cinch.
Okay, what's a monoflap girth?
It's the same design as the dressage girth, but the eventers want to use a monoflap for cross country with their monoflap saddles.
Okay, what's a monoflap? So if people who don't know, what's a monoflap?
So a monoflap is a saddle that has just the one flap that goes down. They'll have the girth.
You don't lift your girth flap. You don't lift your flap up to do the girth up. The girth is attached to the flap of the saddle.
Yeah, and that might be somebody you want to talk to in another episode. Is somebody that is a saddle maker and their thoughts on the monoflap. But nonetheless, the buckles have to be, and I've got pictures on the website. The buckles in any of those girths, dressage, Western, and the monoflap, they need to be above the point of the elbow by a good 2 to 3 inches, because when that horse's front leg goes back, you don't need that buckle, interfering in any way, shape, or form. So again, it's a great way to educate people. We try to do it on the Instagram with pictures to get those buckles up higher. Again, let's minimize what your horse's negative reaction is to the tack that you're wearing. Let's get those buckles up higher.
Okay.
So that's important. The biggest difference. So there's other, there's these shoulder relief girths out there. So what
I've got a picture of one. So let me just share that. It's not your monoflap girth, but I just want is this what you're talking about here? Can you see that? Am I showing it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think people might have a bit of a hard time seeing the type of girth.
Okay.
Typically, your shoulder relief girths are solid leather, and they've contoured it.
They've got a little dip in it.
And that honestly, that really doesn't address the issues that girth is causing. Unequal pressure points, and you can see tons of pictures of that. There's a big gap at the back by the sternum, and there's a pressure line at the front. It's a name that I don't want to knock another product, but why this girth is so different compared to those guys is the independence of each side of it. Okay. And I'm not sure if you have a picture there, Laura, but the actual elastic, it hugs the horse. So you've got an absolutely smooth pressure, a hug around the horses, the underbelly. There's some really good pictures on the website.
Okay, so let me just go to your website here. Just stop share, start share. Chrome tab. So it's the Tapestry Comfort Girth. Okay, so that's, can you see that?
Yeah, so the next picture shows it on a horse.
Okay, where am I? There we go.
The next one. Yes, see?
So the elastic is right at the elbow. Is that what you're saying?
Well, no, that's the elastic. Well, it is behind the elbow, but this is probably a 24 on a horse.
Okay,
and I think
this is the next one.
Picture will show you as well.
Okay, so the buckles are not behind the elbows, is what you're saying?
No, they're way above that point of the elbow, and they need to be. So it's all smooth, right? It's all smooth. That's something else I always tell people to do, and I've got a great video on how tight should my comfort girth be. Always stretch your horse's front legs. Put on your girth, stretch both front legs, then tighten the girth. So Laura, is it possible for you to go to the long version girth?
Yep.
Because then again, you'll see the more elastic.
Belly bar, Tapestry Comfort
right here.
Dressage. Nope.
No, that one. And see how it hugs the horse? Night and day. So it's all smooth. When you get off your horse, it's such a beautiful thing, because it's funny, the little things that make me so happy. Ears not going back, tail not swishing. But when you get off your horse with this girth and you hit the ground and you look, and they always take that deep breath, well, you see the girth expand with them. Right? So it lets them do what they need to do. Thereby you decrease the anxiousness, longer strides, deeper breathing. And these are all testimonials that people have sent me. That this is a great picture. See, nice and smooth. Right? Elastic where they need it, and that's where they're breathing, from the sternum, and you can see the neoprene pad right up the rib cage there.
Does it prevent girth galls?
Again, every horse is different with their conformation. I've had people send me feedback. You know, there was one, I was sitting at a horse show with my daughter one morning. This was a couple of years ago. Get a phone call, and a woman says, "Is this Tapestry?" And I said, "Yep, this is Linda." Well, I have to tell you a story. I have a mare I haven't ridden for 6 years because I own every girth on the market, and every girth gall's my horse, except yours. And I have had, unfortunately, I think 2 or 3 people in the 5 years I've had this girth on the market. I'm not sure what their horse's conformation or skin issue is, and it didn't help. It is, you know, I can't guarantee anything with any horse, but I've had both, you know. Yes, you've cured my horse, and the 2 or 3 that said, you know what, unfortunately, she still galls or he galls. At least you tried.
Yeah. So we do have a question, Lisa. Thank you, Lisa, for hanging out with us here today. Can you explain the right measurement for your horse on a Western saddle? For your Western girth. So is that on your website too?
No. I really should reach out to someone who's very good at sizing the Western horses, but it's very much like you know, again, it's the whole, you know, dressage thing. I would tell people in the Western, put a girth on that fits your horse right now. And this is actually a really good question for measuring, because measuring what you're using now is so important before you order one of my girths. So with your Western cinch on, again, where's the placement of the buckles? If they're high enough and you're good to go, then measure that buckle, measure your girth, end of buckle to end of buckle. I don't care what it's stamped, because girths will tend to stretch, some more so than others over years. And we'll come back to that about mine in a second. But the best way to measure a girth for the size that you need, end of buckle to end of buckle, order that size. So if you're, I can't give you any tips other than that, because again, it depends on where the buckles are. And yes, you can wear that in the hunter ring. There's no, well, actually,
Yes.
you could speak, and Laura, to rules.
Yeah, so as far as the girth goes, I think you have to have a girth, but other than that, I think anything goes. And
Yeah, I wouldn't question anything in a girth.
so I do thank you very much, Kaya, for the question. Really good question, because sometimes you just never know about that. But yes, so I do. Can I share the tapestry thing for the Western cinch?
Sure, absolutely. There's a great picture of it on the website.
Okay, so
And this, you know, going back to saddle fitters, I have some saddle fitters around the world that are actually retailers now. I have one of my best saddle fitters, Riza, in the Netherlands. Before this girth, she said all my dressage riders, Linda, went in a Fairfax girth. And ever since I've met you and came across your girth, they've all switched to this one because their horses are happier.
So there's some that this is on the Tapestry website. So the girth is a similar design. It's got the buckle with the elastic.
The 2 rings at the sternum, and my next order, my newest order of Western shipments is going to have a roller buckle on one side.
Okay, so it's the same. So it's got the elastic here, the pad underneath the sternum, and leather on the ends here.
I'll tell you a quick little Western story. I'm also the Shires rep for Canada, which is a great little marriage. Shires Equestrian oversees my manufacturing, and I have been their rep for the last 8 years in Canada. I met the owner at a trade show when I launched this Persuader in 2009, and we'll talk about that story a bit in the marketing. But anyways, I was doing a sales call on Eastern Canada, New Brunswick, at a feed store. So I don't even know how the girth came up. But anyways, the gentleman that owned the store, he looked at me and said, "Oh, is that girth with all that elastic?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, I got to call my girlfriend." Calls his girlfriend and says, "You're never going to guess who's standing beside me. You know that girth you love? Well, the inventor's right here. So why don't you tell her your story?" So she did. She said, "Linda, I have this beautiful quarter horse, but he wants to kill me when I tack him up. I have every girth on the market. It got so bad, I told my trainer that maybe he wants to go to somebody else. Saw your girth, thought, what's another girth? Tried it. You changed his life."
Okay, so we have, sorry to interrupt you, but Lisa wants to know, when you say buckle to buckle, are you including the outside of the ring?
Great question. So
this is the Western person.
Yeah. I could go get a Western girth if you want, but
sure.
Okay, 1 second.
Sure. So thank you so much, Lisa. Though, Patricia, do you think that can you tell when you're judging if the girth is bothering the horse, and what is it? What happens to how do you know when you're judging if the girth or something, if the horse is girthy?
It's hard. I mean, you can tell if the horse is uncomfortable. I think in the few minutes you have in the ring, it's hard to pinpoint exactly why. But I'm super impressed with the pictures of the horse jumping, because I can definitely see a change in the form.
It makes you think. And I think that's what Linda is saying, so even if they don't buy the product, it's, it makes people think, well, if my horse is happy, it's going to be performing better.
Happy horse, happy rider.
Yeah.
So the buckle. So when I measure, I would go from the tip of the buckle to the tip of the buckle. And that's the full size that you need, as long as your buckles are above the points of the elbow.
As long as your buckles are above the points of the elbow.
Yeah. right?
Even in the Western stream
No
of things.
Yeah, no different than the dressage, really. Otherwise, when that leg comes back, you're going to have the buckle and the keeper and all that, which is thicker than some of these dressage ones, right behind that point of the elbow. So get it up higher. I do think that's probably, you know, a better fit for a saddle anyways. You put these tiny, short little girths on these horses, especially in the monoflap. I have some people go, well, you make an 18-inch. And I go, 18-inch? My God, that's crazy small. Well, these monoflaps have brutally long billets, and they've got the buckles right. I've seen some eventing pictures where the buckles are actually below the point of the elbow. To me, that's actually dangerous. Bring those buckles way up. That way you're going to secure the saddle a lot better as well, right?
Yeah.
So get them up above the points of the elbows, one for the comfort of the horse, and two, I would think that is going to help with securing where your saddle is as well.
Yeah. So I want to ask you, I don't know if you've done any research on it, but you know, how has the girth changed from when people first started riding till now? Like, there hasn't been a whole lot of innovation in girths. Was leather or string was a big improvement to let the air through.
I remember when girths didn't have elastic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was the good old girth that had the crosses in it, the balding girth, and then that was shaped, and then wow, they put elastics on it so you could really crank it up on one side and twist and pull on the skin. So has there been a lot of development in girth innovation?
Well, I think everyone, the only one that comes to mind, I think, was the Fairfax, because that wasn't that the British secret weapon for that Olympics, is they had done all this testing on that girth. And, there's an article on it, and that was the big launch, was going to be this girth at that Olympics. So there's definitely, I think, been research in it, perhaps, because they've done it for sure.
So
but nothing,
for people who don't know, what is the Fairfax girth?
Well, it's a short girth as well, but it's all leather. So it's contoured. It's the contoured leather. Like you can Google it. And that's where, the shaped anatomical girths and my girth are night and day. There's no comparison. There you go. Right? So it's all that contoured leather, which there's pictures that you can see the difference, even where that rider's leg is, pressure points and things like that. It's not a hug. It's right. It's just very different. And I've had feedback from saddle fitters and riders that, well, I used to use this girth, but yours, my horse is so much happier in yours. And I can see why. Again, the elastic, the placement of the elastic. It's like, I could ask any of you, any rider out there, and maybe I'll do it at my next trade show. I'm going to have a leather human belt, and then I have a lovely elastic belt. So I'm going to put that leather belt on you. I'm going to tighten it up, and I want you to go run around the trade show and come back and tell me how you feel. And then we're going to put the elastic one on you. Right? It's night and day. They're both going to hold up my pants, but one is going to allow me to move and breathe, and the other one isn't.
Yeah, excellent. So, I mean, that makes sense to me when you put it that way. Elastic belt versus leather belt, it makes a huge difference. Yeah. Okay, so what else do we have here? Okay, so now, it's 20 after 10 as usual, eh, Patricia? We're running out of time. Okay, so does anybody have any questions about the girth or fitting or anything? And we are going to move on to our next topic, which is that you can do this and about the journey of getting the girth. But first,
I have to say, your girths, I haven't seen for the Spurs, but your price for the girths quite reasonable.
So a great point again. Thank you, Patricia. So I came from very humble beginnings. I grew up in Toronto, so didn't really have access to a quote unquote riding stable. So I thought growing up, and I was a huge baseball. Like, if I didn't discover horses, I'm sure I would have had some kind of career in baseball. But nonetheless, one day my girlfriend in high school said, "Hey, my mom has a horse. You want to come see it?" I said, "Sure, why not?"
Uh-oh.
Talk about what do they call those moments?
Serendipitous.
But one of those game-changing moments in your life. And I'm thinking, wow, there's a whole world out here. And, you know, my parents were never of the ability to pay a lot. I never owned a horse until I was in my 30s, believe it or not. But owning a horse as a kid was never going to be an option. Back in the day, 4 lessons cost you $40. And there used to be a downtown riding school in Toronto, Sunnybrook Farms, and that's where I started. And all through, you know, I got my AM Pony Club. I made the junior team. I tried out for the Pan Ams, never having owned my own horse. So I begged, borrowed, and stole.
And worked your ass off, I bet.
Absolutely, right? John Ski. I'm not sure if you know John Ski, Laura. He's been in the industry forever. I used to set poles for him when he was riding his youngsters to work off a lesson. So anyways, I just thought, you know what? I have got to make my products available for any horse, for any rider. It isn't that they're less quality than anything out there, but I don't need to have a $500 belly guard girth. You can go find one. Mm-hmm. But I want as many horses as possible able to have my products because I know what a difference they make.
Yeah. So get it. Excellent question. I agree that they are reasonable. Do you find, you know, it's kind of steering towards the marketing thing that because they're not as expensive as maybe some of the other products that people aren't using them because they feel that they're not as expensive? Like where's that cutoff point between, you know, I should have this most expensive one because I can afford the most expensive one versus that. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes, absolutely. So again, it's funny. Before this journey, I had zero experience in sales and marketing. Thank you for that, Kaya. I have sizes 38 to 42 in the pony. Just make sure you measure.
And don't forget to use the discount code. Let me put that up there again.
Yes, exactly. What was I saying?
Talking about the price, coming up with the price.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I have a degree in wildlife biology. So I have zero sales and marketing background. So again, this journey has taught me a lot. So how do you come up with a price point? Well, and this is a great marketing question. You have to work backwards from a retail point to get a wholesale point, to get a distributor point, to cover manufacturing and all the other additional costs that go into manufacturing products, shipping, packaging, patent costs, because all my products have been patented. It costs a small fortune to make a product. So when you're trying to price a product, do I put a price point on it that maybe people, you know, the top end will buy it? Like if I wanted to market my belly guard at 500 plus, and the average price of a belly guard is about $450. So again, I'm in the industry, so I kind of know, you know, about manufacturing and costs and all that kind of good stuff. Or do I need to, yes, I'm going to make money at it, because if I don't make money at it, I go out of business and the horses suffer because of it, right? So that's my attitude. Or do I put it at a price point where the majority of people can afford it? And I'll tell you something, another testimonial about this product is I have so many repeat buyers. Linda, I got to get one for my second horse or my third horse. It is not uncommon for people to come into my trade show booth and go, I only have like 6 of your girths, Linda. Riding schools have this girth because they can see the difference it makes with those workhorses, right?
Okay, so here's something that Kai just said too.
Yeah.
Will it help with the dislike of being girthed?
Great question. Great question. So again, I can't guarantee anything, but I can almost guarantee this. It may happen instantly. It may happen, you know, give your horse a couple of weeks. My thoroughbred that I designed this for, he was 3 weeks from starting to use this girth to total change. So remember at the beginning, he used to go to the back of his stall, drop his head, ears pinned, to after about 3 weeks of, okay, this is the girth. He would be standing, waiting for me at that front of the door. And I could just tack him up at the front of the door and he couldn't care less. He was so bad in the winter times with a traditional leather girth. It was like, you know what? I'm going to have to put you away for the winter, just turn you out because, oh my God, he hated to go forward in the canter.
I always in the wintertime used a girth cover because because I thought it would be cold on the horse. So, but
good.
Really
well, good, because you were thinking about it. Good for you.
Exactly. Yeah, I like to think I'm thinking. But so I did put in the comments the tapestryEquineProducts.com, the testimonial pages for you, so you can see and get some testimonials about there. Oh, Sandra Fraser's what brand of this girth? Okay. Just checked in. What's the brand of this girth? Dropping the name throughout the conversation would be helpful for those that must walk out of the room. Thank you so much, Sandra. This is Linda Hauck of Tapestry
Equine Products. And it's Tapestry Comfort Girth.
There it is. You can go to tapestryEquineProducts.com. We'd love for you to go there. And if you do go there, you think you might like to try something, Linda has given us a discount code that you can use to purchase something there as well. There. So that's in the comments. Awesome. Okay, so, we've got 6 minutes left. Classic, right?
What? Part of this discussion
we'll have to come back again, right?
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Anytime. Again, you know what? We're here. I'm here for the horses. Yes. I have some testimonials on my webpage, or I think I'm not sure if this one is, but it's in my I have a folder on my email of testimonials, and there's some of them that literally bring a tear to my eye.
Yeah,
the negative behavior that this horse has had for so long, and then just how this girth has just totally turned them around. It's cute. I have a repeat buyer out in British Columbia. She has 3 of these girths, and I'll say to her, "So what do you notice with your horses?" And she's honest. She goes, "You know what, Linda? I'm not sure I notice anything, but you know what? It makes sense."
Yeah.
Right. And it's good. That's,
Thank you, Sandra. So good to hear about innovation and makes positive change. Yes. Thank you very much, Sandra, for that.
Thank you.
So I want to ask you about you coming and going along this journey. Do you have special education? Do you have special skills, superpowers that allowed you to do this?
You know what? It had to be, I would tell anybody that wants to do this kind of a journey, believe in your product because it will drive you everywhere. I have so believed in what my products can do that no, I don't have any special training. You
have a degree in wildlife biology, right?
I have a degree in wildlife biology, right? and people will ask me, what bird is that? And it's like, oh, anyways, yes. No, you have to be resourceful. You have to be, somebody says no to you, so what? Carry on, move on. You have to be adventurous. You have to be a bit of a risk taker because there's no guarantees in any of this. You just have to, you got to come out of your comfort zone. You go to a trade show, and I've been lucky to go to Australia, Germany, England twice, across the States and Canada doing trade shows. You have to want to be able to talk to people because they'll see my girths hanging up and I can see their eyes and they'll go, oh, what's that? Right? Oh, that looks different. And I'll say, hey, come on in. The story's free. Right? And then the guard goes down and they'll go, oh, okay, tell me your story. So yeah, you have to be a go-getter. Things aren't going to happen unless you're hustling. And, but the biggest thing is I believe in my products. I know they make a difference. And so that's easy for me. That's an easy do.
And just like anything you believe in, including your riding, you have to be persistent. Mm-hmm. You can't have a thin skin, and get discouraged. You just have to keep going at it because you believe in it.
Spot on, Patricia. Mm-hmm. The horses need a voice, right? That was one of the first taglines with the Spur. So just a quick marketing thing. A friend of mine. So if you're in a horse business, you don't always need horse people to do the things for you. So when I was, still in the prototype stage, I needed to come up with a name for the Spur. A friend of mine, not horsey at all, said to me one day, I have the name. And I'm in my head, I'm thinking, oh gosh, what could it be? Because like you don't ride. And he said, Spursuader, because you're trying to persuade. And actually, that's been a hit around the world.
Oh, that's a great
the packaging, my logo. I think you've got my logo there. Exactly. So when I went to this marketing, I Googled packaging and marketing or whatever, and this beautiful website came up. And I thought, oh, I bet you this guy's in God knows where in the world. He was a half an hour from my house.
Perfect. I love when that happens.
And he's gone on to be incredibly successful. Anyways, knows nothing about horses. Took him to a tack store, showed him the spur section, and he picked up a package of spurs and went, oh, it's blank. We're going to put your story here. So all I did was I gave him the name. Here's the name Spursuader, and this is what he designed. And I love how he accented the bottom of that S to be like the spur. And on my packaging, he's the one that came up with the tagline, the art of gentle persuasion. And then I took it a step further when we did a trade show banners and things like that. If your horse had a voice, Spursuader would be his choice.
Oh,
wow.
Right. So again, just trying to, and again, I don't have a marketing background. Trust me. The horses are talking. Are we listening?
Excellent. Okay, so we are over time now, but would encourage people to go to Tapestry Equine Products if you're interested and contact Linda. If you have any questions, please send me an email. I will put my email here. And thank you so much. Patricia, any final words?
Thank you. Thanks, guys. This was a great opportunity. Thank you.
Very eye-opening for me. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Patricia. Appreciate it. And thank you, Laura.
Oh, you're welcome. And Patricia, final words.
Go home and practice my mantra. Go home and practice. Practice and pay attention to your horse, what they're telling you.
Thank you.
And Linda, final words?
Yeah, just listen to your horse. They're talking all the time. What are they saying?
And your byline is happy horse, happy rider.
Happy rider.
Yeah. And my final words are go use this stuff. Go hug your horse. Right? I try to say that every time.
Okay.
And then there's that.
Perfect.
Thanks now.